I'm going to give you a mile marker. I feel like part of my job is to inform you. What direction are we going in, and how fast are we going? Let me give you a couple of stories here that are gravely, gravely concerning. I told you last week the Soros fund management, run by billionaire George Soros and his son, have now taken control or are on the verge of taking control of Odyssey. Odyssey is the second largest radio broadcaster in America. Only iHeartRadio owns more. And thank God, at this point, iHeartRadio has the premier radio networks. I've worked for this company in one way or another since 1989. They are my partner with this broadcast, and they have been always very, very supportive. If it wasn't for my partners, Julie Talbot and Dan Metter and all of the people at iHeartMedia, this show wouldn't be heard anywhere. So iHeart is the only one right now not under attack, and I'll tell you about this. First, Odyssey. Odyssey amassed $1.9 billion in debt. They filed for bankruptcy. And now Soros is taking on the fund, and they will be the largest shareholder once the bankruptcy proceedings conclude. Where are we? They're dismantling radio and buying radio up. Now, Soros has already bought, last year, I think 50 radio stations that were all Spanish-speaking. Gee, isn't that interesting? Now he's buying up the second largest broadcaster in America. Odyssey owns 220 stations, News Talk in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, all of some of the biggest news talk stations in the country. They own the radio stations, including KDWN AM in Las Vegas, PHT, Philadelphia, KDKA in Pittsburgh. They have Dana Lash on many of their stations. They have Sean Hannity. They have Mark Levin. And George Soros has spent more than $21 billion over the last few decades. He spent $1.3 billion in 2022 alone. Most of that cash went to left-wing causes, including Media Matters, Planned Parenthood, the Sunrise Movement. He's the guy who has put in the radical DAs and the radical attorney generals. And now, what? He's buying up talk radio. Why would you do that? Why would you buy all of these broadcasts? It seems like it's a failing industry, right? It's not. It's not. About 80% of the people still listen to radio. 80%. That's incredible. You think nobody listens to the radio. 80% still listen to the radio. Okay, so that is the second largest broadcaster, now going to George Soros. Then we have this. Cumulus. Cumulus used to be the ABC radio network. It used to be the largest. Now I think it is the third largest. Cumulus is facing a takeover from an investor based in Singapore. Part of the process of their bankruptcy, it has asked for and received from the FCC permission to become as much as 100% foreign owned. So the third largest broadcaster is about to go to a Singapore holdings company. How does this bid for America? You have George Soros and a Singapore company. And then iHeart all alone. But don't worry, news for radio gets even better. yesterday, Brendan Carr, he's an FCC commissioner, he came out and said the FCC has just ordered every broadcaster to start posting a race and gender scorecard that breaks down the demographics of their workforce. Activists lobbied for this because they want to see businesses pressured into hiring people based on their race and gender. Courts have already overturned the FCC twice for pressuring broadcasters into making hiring decisions in violation of the Constitution. I dissent. This is a shot across our bow now. If the Supreme Court doesn't stop them again, we will now, if I want to be on radio, have to disclose, by the way, I don't have a problem doing this. I'm almost 2% Native American, so I'm a minority inside of a minority. Anyway, we have to start hiring based on gender and everything else. I don't care what, male, female. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what color you are. Really don't. I want to know what's inside of your head. I want to know how you think. Can you bring something different that I don't bring to the table? That's how I hire. Can you fit what your different thinking is into what I'm trying to accomplish? If you can, great. We're going to work together forever. Most of the people that I work with, and I apologize for this, spend their life working with me. Because we have...
Certainly feels that way.
Yeah, because we have a good working relationship. We all respect each other. Again, except for Stu. This is really, and let me give you another one. This is not about radio. Vice Media stops publishing on Vice.com, slashes hundreds of jobs amid mainstream media death spiral. So all of these mainstream media companies, they're all cutting. Did you hear about CBS and Catherine Herridge? How do you say her name? Heritage, right? I can't remember. Anyway, worked with her at Fox. We were obviously very close. But she's very, very credible. She's worked, I don't agree with her all the time, but she's an actual journalist. And CBS News, they just threw her out. She's gone. Now, they're saying that's because, we've laid, lots of people off recently because we're collapsing.
That's their argument for themselves.
Yeah, we're collapsing. Okay, well, maybe a real journalist just isn't welcome there anymore. I don't know. But everything, all of the media, what I said to Stu, and when we were at the height of Fox, I said, we got to get out of here. And everybody's like, what? Everybody works their whole life to get here. And I'm like, we got to get out of here. So this whole thing is going to burn itself down. It's all going to collapse. And here we are. It's collapsing. But as I said at the time as well, if you're here while it collapses and you survive, you'll then be working for the government because all of these people will get bail. They'll get bailed out by the federal government. We can't. These institutions are far too important.
It goes back to your Cloward and Piven stuff from yesterday. It's worth watching if you go to your Blaze TV account. You can watch it on demand. But it's one of those situations where, Vice is a great example of this. I mean, Vice, how many articles did Vice write about how your career and life was collapsing?
Oh my gosh.
I can't even
over and over
again. And all these companies that have been writing for years about how conservative media personalities were going to flame out and their businesses were going to collapse are now all gone. They're just, they've all either dissolved or fired all their people and AI is writing their articles. I mean, it is sure satisfying for me, but it is embarrassing for them. I would assume. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they've all moved on and they're all just taking money from the government and living at home now, but or working from home now. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like they are able to keep any of these things afloat, despite. I mean, how much money did Vice get billions and billions of dollars of just free investment cash dumped into that place.
You imagine if we would have had $100 million, just $100 million compared to the billions that they had, just $100 million $50 million in investment. Can you imagine what we could have done with it? Because we wouldn't have wasted it.
Right.
They just wasted it.
Gone. I mean, and this is also while they're producing shows for HBO. I mean, they were handed a media empire with, let's be honest, no valid reason to be handed a media empire. I mean, like, Vice did some interesting stuff early on. They were kind of different. And then they just turn into the typical left-wing news source. And we were supposed to sit here and be like, oh, wow, this is amazing. It's innovative. Look at this. Let's just throw money at these people. And what do? The place is gone, basically.
We sat there for I don't know how many meetings. I sat with big companies that were trying to figure out how we were doing it. And at the time, we were doing it more right than anybody else. We were still wrong, and we had no margin of error because it was all on me. And they were trying to figure out, what do we do? What do we do? And I remember sitting in meetings going, your numbers don't make sense. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not an accountant. I'm really not a good businessman. But I can look at this and you're selling what for what? And how do you even know that's true? And it was all hype. It was all hype. Now all that hype is over and it's all falling apart. The mainstream media is falling apart. And look what's happening. I just said recently, it's been quiet on the Western Front. It's been all quiet for quite some time in talk radio. Haven't really had any attacks on talk radio. Been squished with digital, but on talk radio, haven't had a single problem. That's new. What was that all about? They forget about us? No. They're just going to take it. They're just going to take it in public-private partnerships, and they left because our billionaires do nothing. Honest to God, our billionaires who believe in America, the only one that I know that is actually putting his money where his mouth is Donald Trump. I mean, there's a handful.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. There's some of these guys are very
there's a handful,
very
but the
active,
one
not always publicly.
Yes, but George Soros. I mean, if you're going to stand up. Stand up. Stand up. You want to stay in the shadows, that's fine, and I thank you for it. But get your friends to stand up. We know the power of talk radio. We know the power of radio. Where are our billionaires? Why aren't they stepping to the plate? Why? Anyway, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to support your local radio station. The station that is running this program. Please support them. Please buy the advertising. I'm not asking you to buy something you don't need. If you hear somebody advertising something you like, okay, I need that or I'm looking for that, please go to that store or whatever. Local radio is critical. You've got to have a local radio station that is not controlled by the Borg. We thank our sponsors and we thank our local radio stations, our affiliates. You're the heart of us. Thank you.